Lucas as the director of operations, which was kind of a favor to Steve Arnold, our manager. And in that role, it was totally non-creative. I wasn't involved in any of the games hands-on, although I was involved peripherally with all of them. So I was doing things like getting an art department director so someone could manage all the artists, and getting someone who was in charge of all play testing, getting someone who was in charge of all customer service, hiring people to be the next round of Scum scripters, of doing the Scum scripting. So that, like Dave Grossman, Tim Schafer came in the first batch, and Michael Stemley and Sean, what's his name, came in on the next batch. And so it was taking the company from like 30 or 40 people up to like 150 people in some way where it worked. But it was not very fun because I wasn't creative at all. So the deal was I could do that for a year, and afterwards I get to move on to a new project to do what I really wanted to do when I first got there, which was location-based entertainment. So instead of games for home PC or game platform, it was more like for a theme park where you have an interactive, immersive ride, like virtual reality type of experience. So we actually had this project for 2 years, and it was in collaboration with Hughes Simulation, which is a company that does a lot of professional flight simulators, and we built this called a pod called the Mirage Pod, and it was 2 seats, had a screen that was 120-degree field of view looking out of it's a collimating mirror, bouncing off a collimating mirror, meaning that you were focusing, your eyesight was focused at infinity instead of right in front of you. And I think we used an Amiga computer for a heads-down display, had a whole rack of equipment for surround sound, and it was networked together with a bunch of other computers. We did a bunch of games, and as I designed a bunch of games for this, we did one as a prototype based on Star Wars universe, so I finally got to do one in the Star Wars universe. And after about a year and a half to 2 years of this, they actually priced what it would cost to produce these, which was kind of silly they didn't do this out front. And partly because of the image generator we were using, which was a high-end flight simulator image generator from Evans and Sutherland. I think $500,000 for that alone. So the whole thing was very expensive, like maybe $6 or $10 million to do an installation, and they just couldn't sell it. And so they ended up closing down the division and selling the rights to Hughes. Hughes couldn't sell it, and I was so into this location-based entertainment thing, I couldn't picture myself going back into doing small games. So I left, and it was my choice, I guess, either to leave at that point or go back and do the old stuff. And I did some VR projects that never saw the light of day, ended up at another game company, painful year and a half at Rocket Science Games, where I did the worst game I ever worked on, which I won't even mention the name of, and ended up going to the internet and getting out of games for a while. So I was working for an online community company, Talk City, doing online communities and online games. And lately I've been doing kind of a variety of things, from working with my wife on her websites and children's products and website work for various people professionally, for like Simon & Schuster, and a couple of game projects that are in the works that are for alternate platforms for young kids. What was that? I was doing some political stuff too, doing my part to change the regime in my country. Spent most of last year was volunteering for the Howard Dean campaign, doing video and web stuff for them. So, just all over the place. And someone asked the question before, would I do games again? And probably the answer to that would be yes, under the right circumstances. not a 3 or 4 year game project that was kind of a duplicate of a game which has already been out there, but something that was really breaking new territory. I might be interested if that ever came up. Yeah.
One question: you started getting into the industry with your book on computer graphics.
Right.
How came you ended up as a designer? When did the move come from graphics expert programmer to designer?
Okay. The question was, how did I move from, say, my book on computer graphics and animation to designer? And actually, I have to go back before the book. In 1977, my wife and I started a nonprofit public access computer center in Marin called the Marin Computer Center. And we ended up with, started with like 10 microcomputers, and people could walk in through the door, rent these computers by the hour for $1.50 an hour, play games, do work, learn. We taught programming classes, lots of work with kids and field trips and teachers, teaching them programming and just really basic, using the basic computer language, but very, very simple stuff. And during that so I was very much in games at that time. And during that process, we ended up doing a lot of conversions of games for other companies. So a company called Adventure International had a bunch of small text adventures for PCs, and we would take their games and convert from, say, the Radio Shack computer to Apple II, or for CPM systems. So I got to look at the inner workings of all these games, and we would often make little changes to make them better. So I learned about game design by doing that. We had a game that we did for Sesame Street theme park, very small game for that. So I was involved with games, and so the book was really kind of came after the other part of doing games for 3 or 4 years. And then, in fact, I always wanted to work at LucasFilm, as soon as I saw Star Wars. And as soon as I think, in fact, my wife and I had thought about moving out of the area at one point, and to find a place that was less expensive to live in. And the reason we didn't move was because I said, well, if we move, I'll never get to work there. So when the opportunity came up, it was perfect, and I grabbed it. And in retrospect, I think I wrote that book so I can get that job. If you think about, in Zak McKracken terms,